Legends, welcome back to another Ruck Infringement podcast special interview. This week's celebrity guest is none other than Paul Dunn. Paul, how you going, mate?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I am great. It's a pleasure to have you on. We really appreciate you coming on for us. Let's start off with getting to know you. Who are you, and did you always want to play rugby league?
Well, I was the oldest of four boys, and I had no older cousins, so I didn't really know what football was. And then when I was in year one of the fathers came along I was in this little school in Orange, just 3 grades, and he said, I want to coach rugby league, and I was one of the biggest kids in first grade, and they didn't have enough kids in year two. So I got a start, and I had no idea what I was doing. I had the King G shorts with a zipper in the pocket, and I used to pack in the scrum because I knew how to do that. And then I'd stand there and put my hands in my pockets. And my father, who never played football in his life, he played 3 or 4 games in his entire life, he took it home and got mum to sew my pockets up so I couldn't put my hands in my pockets because it was embarrassing him. Yeah.
Oh, I love it, mate.
And then I went from there where I went to a De La Salle school and they played football, and it was, just went okay at it, obviously, and decided that's what I wanted to do.
Very nice, mate. So let's start off with that. Coming through the grades, who did you play for?
I played in the country till I was 18. We moved to Bathurst when I was 16, and we'd lived in Orange prior to moving away. Came back, and so I played with the Catholic school in a Catholic club in Bathurst, St Pat's, for 1 year. But I was going to the high school, and no one else there played for St Pat's, so I changed clubs. Nearly gave up, actually. Changed clubs, had a good year, had another good year, and then left school, did a year in college in Bathurst, and played sort of half first grade, half reserve grade. But the first grade coach didn't like me. He thought I was a smart ass. Who would have thought? And then there was a bloke up there, Barry Heffernan, I think his name was. I had a conversation. He got me. I talked to John Quayle and Laurie Fry at the end of '82. Came down to trial '83 and never went home.
Lovely, mate. How good's that? Let's talk about that now. So you move into playing first grade rugby league. Let's talk about your debut. Were you nervous, and what was going through your head?
Well, it's funny because my actual debut, if you look at the record books, was I played 2 minutes against Manly on a Saturday afternoon. But back then that didn't count. But then the following weekend I ran on in first grade. It's say Brandy played first grade. He's a couple of years younger than me. And we got beaten. I got a cork thigh. So I'm listening, and that's at the start of '84 because they shortened the season up because of the Olympics. So they played weekend, midweek, weekend, midweek, weekend. So they played 5 rounds in basically 3 weekends.
Wow.
So I picked in third grade, played second grade and first grade the first day because third grade got washed out. Played reserve grade on the Thursday night, first grade on the Sunday. Missed the next game because I had a cork thigh. Then played about 5 games of reserve grade.
Jeez.
Then Laurie Fry called me in one day. I was working at East Leagues, going to uni because you didn't get paid enough money to live back then as a footballer. And he said, I think you're ready to play first grade. So when you think you're ready, come back and tell me. And I thought, well, the next 2 games were against Parramatta, who were the reigning premiers, and St George, and they were leading the comp. I thought, well, I'll wait for another couple of weeks till we play Illawarra, and I'll say. I turned up the next night and I got picked in first grade, and we got beat 8-4 at cricket ground on the Sunday, and that was it.
Yeah, it's great, mate. I mean, you definitely would have been very nervous coming up against Parramatta there. But let's move into footy circles. Everyone had a nickname. Did you have one that stood out, or was it just Dunny, or what'd you have?
Yeah, pretty much Dunny.
Yeah.
There's a few people call me different things, but like individuals. Like one bloke I was interviewed after I got man of the match against Canterbury one day, and they said something about my ball skills, and I said, they just come naturally. So he called me natural. And there was a movie at that stage with Robert Redford. Robert Redford was in it. It was called The
Mm.
Naturals. Yeah. And then a few other things over the years, but nothing really stuck. It was always Dunny. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's good, mate. I mean, hey, easy to remember. Now, mate, were you superstitious, or did you have any teammates that were superstitious? Any weird rituals that they used to do?
Uh, I always used to run out last if I wasn't captain, and that was
Yeah,
only at Parramatta, so I pretty much ran out last for most of my career. And that was about it.
yeah.
John Ferguson, Chico, he'd get ready, and then this is sort of like 84, 85, and 85. And he didn't do all that warm up out on the ground that they do now.
Mm.
So he'd get ready, and then he'd go and find a blanket and lie on the ground under a bench somewhere and have a sleep.
Wow.
Uh,
Wow. Did he ever miss a game? Like, was he ever
no.
sleeping?
You
No,
get him
no, no.
get woken up.
That's great. That's a really cool one. I haven't heard that one before. Mate, who was your footy idol when you were growing up?
Terry Randall, he played for
Mm.
Manly. He was front
Yep.
row, second row, more second row. He was tough. And I met him years later. I was doing some work with the Northern Eagles, and he was on the board. And I said, I used to love watching you play when I was a kid. Don't say that, son. You know, because he's probably only well, 13, 14 years older than me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's cool,
It
mate.
was
No,
funny. But
that's a
he
good one. I mean,
was
he was
very,
great.
very tough. And
Mm.
I saw him one day. He hit Bob O'Reilly when the Bear was playing at the Roosters, and Terry Randall hit him, and he just sent him back 10 meters from once he
Wow.
came. Yeah, he smashed him. This is a
Yeah.
big effort.
Oh, huge to do that to O'Reilly as well. So that
Hmm.
was massive, mate. Now, you played in some amazing teams, of course, over the years. Can you tell us about some incredible characters you played alongside?
Well, obviously Bar was one of them.
Yeah.
Because Bar would go to the Twin Willows on a Friday night, turn up to training on a Saturday after having drunk about 20 vodkas, get through training, then go and play out of his skin. And
Yeah. Wow.
but he was such a pest at training too. He'd be running around nipping people on the back of their ankles like it was a dog biting them, and yeah, crap like that. Who else? Paul Clark at Penrith and at Parramatta.
Mm.
Nobby was a pest as well. Very good at taking the piss out of people. Barry Walker was one of his favourites at Penrith. He's always given it to him. Um, and you can't say some of the nicknames. Well, his nickname's Gubba, which is the opposite. And although don't think he's Aboriginal. I think he's just that was his nickname.
Yeah.
The Penguin. There's some really good nicknames actually. I
Mm.
remember when Freddie first was coming into prominence, and Sterlo was commentating. He was trying to stick him with like Adolf Hitler,
Yeah.
and we're at City First training, and Jack Gibson was the coach. He's walked in. It was me, Langmack, Joey Thomas, and Freddie. He goes, Paul, Joe, Paul, Fred. He thought his name was Fred, so we
Oh,
couldn't
wow.
wait. We rushed out, told Brandy, and that's where Freddie came from. That's how he got his nickname.
Oh, there you go. That's great. I
Because
love that.
Gibson didn't know who he was. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome, mate. Now, on the back of that, who was one of the funniest players that you played with?
Oh, Paul Clark,
Yeah.
definitely. Who were the Bulldogs? Langmack was funny because he's just not necessarily because he's humorous. He's just weird. He was funny. Laugh at some of the shit he did. Uh,
Oh,
Brett Kenny.
oh,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
he was always a bit of a prankster, and
yeah, Bert.
yeah,
Yeah, he was definitely one. I remember hearing some stories about Bert. Very funny guy. Mate, let's talk about Origin now.
I got a bit on
What
for
was
you. The end of
Yeah, mate.
last week, we're on the '86 Kangaroo Tour. They gave us all our money for that week in England, and we used to get about £300 a week.
Yeah.
And they gave us our money for the 2 weeks in France. And so Bert put his money on the end of the counter in the Dragon Arrow, we were saying, and Dale Shearer's come along and just picked it up, took it.
Oh,
It
oh
didn't do anything
wow.
with it, just took it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we run around for a couple of hours at least looking for this money. Someone stole my money, are you looking for this, are you?
Oh, Rowdy, he was good too, wasn't he? He was great value,
Yes.
Rowdy. Oh,
Yeah.
mate, let's jump into the Origin Arena. Can you tell us what was that like, and was it a big step up in sort of class from first grade footy?
Yeah, I only played 3 games, and one of
Yeah,
those was off the bench. But yeah, it's just the pace was at another level, and the intensity. And I think it was disappointing because that I didn't get to play more. But yeah, as Madge said the other day, we all caught up, or a group of old players caught up. He said you all played, so that's yeah,
yeah,
that's something. But yeah, I remember we played the first game in '89 up in Brisbane, and we got beat 36-6. Personally, I played quite well, but the team we just got smashed, and
yeah,
yeah, it was pretty demoralising.
yeah. It would have been, mate. But we moved from Origin, and then you represent your country as well. What was that like representing Australia?
Oh, that's because when I was a kid, that was the thing, was to play for your country,
Yeah,
and I played for Australia long before I played for New South Wales,
yeah.
which is quite funny as it turned out. Um, the interesting stat: never won a game for New South Wales, never lost a game for Australia. The
There you go.
um, no, it was amazing, and got
Mm,
picked to go on the '86 Kangaroo Tour, and then just after the first test, Locko dislocated his elbow, and I was replacement player that day, so I finished the rest of the game. And then I got picked to play in the second test, and played really well. Got man of the match in the third test. Played the 2 tests in France, so no, it was pretty special.
yeah, absolutely. And I think, as you said, I still think it should be the pinnacle of our game. I think more so now, a lot of players lean towards playing for their state more so, but playing for your country, for your nation is a pretty big deal. So it's yeah, it would have been an absolute honour for you. Mate, tell us about your finals appearances and what was that like? Again, was the pace a lot different to what it was in a normal club game?
Yeah, it definitely picked up. So in '86 we played South in the semi-final, beat down, played Parramatta, got absolutely trounced 28-8 or something like that.
Jeez.
It was quite bad. And then we played Balmain the next week. We beat them, and then we played Parramatta in the grand final, and we lost 4-2. I think in nowadays, one of Brett Kenny's tries would have been a try, but back then it
Mm,
wasn't. Um, Andrew Farrow decapitated Mick Delroy just before halftime. Didn't get, I don't think he even got penalised. Yet in the second half, Phil Siglerth just sticks his arm out reaction. He got sent off with 13 minutes to go, and that probably, if he doesn't get sent off, we probably win it. But
mm,
they were probably the best team that year. And then '88, we played Canberra in the semi-final, beat them 19-18. Played Cronulla in the major semi, annihilated them. Um,
yeah.
I remember because Gavin Miller got the Rothmans medal that year, and we were watching the video the week leading up the semi-final, and Gus said, "Don't worry about it. To him, just hit his runners." The first time he ran
Oh,
up, he did his ran up, fade back, gave it to Michael Streetsley. He got snotted by Folksy, Cement, and Joey, 2 of the 3, and you could see the rest of them all just wave the white flag, and that was the game over. And then we played Balmain in the grand final, and they had to they beat Penrith in a playoff to get to the semis, and they won their next 4 games. And Ellery hit his head on the ground, or Barr's elbow, one or the other. And yeah, but I think, and Blocker got suspended, and he went over to England to
mm.
try and play that out. And I think we're always going to beat them, but yeah, having Ellery not there helped a little bit.
Yeah, for sure, mate. What what in your personal opinion, what was better, winning a grand final or playing for your country?
uh, touch wood, I was lucky enough and did both. So they're
Yeah,
both
yeah,
pretty special.
yeah.
I think
Pretty special.
playing for Australia, that's more of an individual honour. Like you
Yeah,
get to play in the team, and the team that on that '86 Kangaroo tour, even in the World Cup final in '88, two amazing teams. But I think the club winning the grand final is really special because you'd spent
yeah,
like 11 months of the year training and week in, week out, all the trials and tribulations. And
yeah, for sure.
mind you, that '88 season, that was amazing because, you know, they got rid of Warren Ryan. They put Gus in there expecting nothing to happen so they could get Chris Anderson back in. We win the comp. We had a great, like Gus was same age as Tunksy. He was the captain
Yeah,
at the end. Um, he was 5 years older than me. So we just had the last three games we played in the comp were all Friday night games. I remember my now wife, my girlfriend at the time, we got home at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. So it got later each week. We were just having such a good time, and everyone was all around the same age. 6 of us got married the next off season, or
yeah. Wow.
12 months later. So, no, it was really special. And then at Penrith, it was the first time the club had ever won, and they'd lost the year
Yeah,
before and did themselves no favours in the lead up to the grand final with their shenanigans. So that was a pretty special. It was completely different to Canterbury, but special all the same. Yeah.
yeah. The Penrith one's pretty special. I've interviewed Mark Geyer, and even he talks about like how incredible that was, and like that Raiders team the year before was just absolutely outstanding in 1990. So, yeah, mate, it was. Look, it's great to see some of those old grand finals. I think they were really good to watch.
Mm.
But mate, we moved from footy life into retirement. How was retirement for you?
Uh, Looking back on it now, it was really tough the first couple of years because,
Mm,
for 13 years, even though I'd worked the whole time I played, 13 years you're a footballer and,
yeah,
that's who you were. And then all of a sudden, because you'd be Tuesday night club training, you'd be there with 35, 40 other blokes. And then the rest of the week, you're with 14 or 15 other blokes. And then all of a sudden, it's nothing. You're sort of home at 6 o'clock at night, nothing. Luckily, I finished at the Roosters and I lived nearby and I was a member. So I used to go to the footy every second week and just
yeah, nice.
tie one on. And yeah, I think the clubs and the rugby league do it a lot better now in terms of looking after the players when they retire, because it's definitely it's a large chunk of your life that goes. And back then, nobody prepared you for it. It was just see you later.
Yeah, such a big change of lifestyle too, as you said. You're so used to playing rugby league for such a long time, and then you're not. So yeah, it's massive, mate. Did you stay involved in the game at all once you retired?
Yeah, over the years, I was on the board of the Players Association for a
Oh,
while.
nice.
I was on the board of the Mental League for 4 years. I was on the board of Canterbury twice, total of 6, 8.5 years, and then I was also on the board of the Leagues Club the second time.
Yeah, wow.
Um, and never again. Oh, and I was the
Oh,
CEO at Oh, sorry, I was the CEO at South when they first got back in the comp for 14 months.
oh, there you
That was the longest 10 years of my life. Yeah.
go. I could imagine, mate. I could imagine. Mate, if you could change one rule in the NRL today, what would it be?
Referees, just have no referees. It'd be a much better game. No, sorry. The one rule that I could
Uh,
change. I'd bring back the competition in the play the ball. It's two rules: competition to play
yep.
ball and competition in the scrums.
Yeah.
And in doing that, you're going to, because I saw something today about Freddie, Slater, and Gallen were talking the other day about all these injuries, and the game is far too quick.
Mm,
It's, human beings can do so much, but like they don't get a rest anymore. And
no.
that was part of the idea of the scrums. And I remember I listened to another podcast a couple of years ago that these blokes were doing, and Bill Harrigan was on. And he said it was his idea to have when you kick the ball out, that you have a play the ball. But he said that wasn't that that wasn't allowing for all the other rule changes that they'd made. So now you've got this thing where they hardly get to stop and take a break. And I remember talking to Tim Sheens and Royce out at Panthers 4 or 5 years ago. And he said, you look at it now, he said, the forwards, you hit the ball up and then have a break for 5 tackles, and then you go and do some tackling, and then you might hit the ball up again. He said nowadays they're all doing dummy runs as well, and they're not getting a rest in scrums. And he said they can't actually compete in the scrums because they're that tired when they get to the scrums. The scrum is actually a rest for them. And I think the people in charge, a lot of them have got no idea because they've never played the game. I remember just after I finished, there was a guy, Dennis Ward, he played half for Manly and Canterbury, played for Australia. And there was me and Sterlo as ex-players, and had Brian Smith as a coach and a couple other people. And he was just talking about it, and he said when they went from unlimited tackles, well before you were born, just after I was born, to the 4 tackle rule, and then they played that for 4 years, and they went, okay, well, now we're going to have 6 tackles. And then every time they made a rule change, they didn't go back to what they had when they made the rule change. They just kept adding it on. So in the end, it was like that house that, we had a room on here and room on here, and you end up with this thing that looks terrible. Because you look at the game, you talk about those grand finals that I played in. The game today looks nothing but it's similar, same, but different. It's so much quicker. They're so much bigger. They're full time now, so they're all fitter, bigger, stronger. And no one ever did a pack when I played. Well, nobody did weights till halfway through my career. Really, you do a little bit in the off season. You'd never do them during the season. Now, they do a pack and you're out for the rest of the season, and they're all doing hamstrings now. I don't know why. Be something.
Yeah, it's bad.
Something that the world doing. But yeah. But I'd bring back some of the old competition in the game, and you can't do that because scrums. Well, rugby still has scrums, and I remember there's a guy when I did my masters. One of the guys, he was one of the rugby referees for Australia, and he was doing a talk one day, and he said there's 43 different penalties you can give in a scrum, in a rugby scrum. Rugby league, it was second row and feet across, and that was about it. But yeah, and there's some of the good things. I remember one day playing against Matt Goodwin and just wrestling all day in the scrum and as a competition that, they don't get to do that anymore.
Yeah, from like when I've watched, the 80s and 90s when scrums were contested, first off, it looked a lot of fun, but the competition was better because both teams had a chance of getting the ball as well. Just feeding it now the way they do, just through the locks, feet, and then back out to the halfback. Yeah, as you said, I think it's just more for a rest now. But I really like that. I think bringing contested.
Well, I watched a bit of the St George Souths game on Saturday night, and Damien Cook actually tried to hook the ball, and the referee. It's almost like if you do get the ball back, they go, "Oh no, you can't do that. The other team's got to have the ball. It's not. It's not part of the program."
Yeah,
which
is just ridiculous. Mate, what is one piece of advice that you could give a young player coming through at the
moment? Just train your hardest and listen to what people tell you, and realize that at 20, you know absolutely nothing, not everything. Follow the Socrates quote. The only thing I know is that I don't know anything.
Very good.
Unfortunately, I was probably 33 when I first heard that. Yeah, not 21. Yeah.
No, it's really good advice, mate. I think for young guys, it's about knowing that you might feel 10 foot tall and bulletproof, but this game, you could be out of this game in an instant. That's the brutality of rugby league. So I think that's really good advice, mate.
I was lucky when I was going to uni. First year I was in Sydney, and Greg Mullane was in the class, and he's about 7 or 8 years old. So he was a mature age student, and I just got talking to him and talking about footy, and he said, "Oh, you play footy?" I said, "Yeah, I play in President's Cup at the Roosters." He said, "How do you go?" I said, "I go all right. I just don't like training." He said, "If you're going to be any good, you got to love training," and that stuck with me for like. And I was quite a good trainer. I just didn't like it, but in the end, I grew to love it, and I still train a fair bit now. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great, mate. And before we finish up, can you give us an early prediction for 2024? We're into round 11 now, so almost halfway through the season. Who do you reckon's going to take it out this year?
Well, my hairdresser this morning told me that he's a Dragons fan. He told me that the Roosters are specials.
Wow, they're looking good.
Well, yes, at times they do, and then they play the
Yeah,
Bulldogs, are terrible in the first half.
I know.
Um, the uh, and then the great Joe Thomas keeps telling me Brisbane are going to win it, but there's something about him I just don't like. Maybe it's their fullback, although he's an extremely good player. I like watching him play. I just don't like his attitude.
Yeah,
But since I got kicked off the Bulldogs board a couple of years ago, I've been a Penrith supporter. So yeah, since I got kicked off the Canterbury board, or resigned or whatever it was, yeah, I just happened to jump on the Panthers bandwagon because I could,
mm,
and they've won the last three comps. So I still think they look the goods.
yeah,
And Nathan Cleary's going to have 8 weeks off, so he's going to come back raring to go. And yeah, so I think they're still the team to beat. You got to love kids, don't
yep,
you?
yeah, mate, absolutely. Yeah, look, Penrith are looking very good at the moment. Just give me one second.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Penrith are looking really good. I mean, I just don't know how they keep churning out these players. They lose players, and they've just got this incredible depth at the club. Where
Well, I remember
you
I
look at,
talked. I was talking to Gus and Wayne Beavis a couple of
mm,
years ago before we signed Trent Barrett, and Gus was still at Penrith at the time, and he said for every kid coming through, we got another 6 or 7 behind him in the same position,
yeah,
and
yeah,
just do that. So all that time that they spent, him and Jimmy Jones and Matt Cameron, that 10-year period really leading up to their first premiership, and that's essentially what he's trying to do at the Bulldogs without the whole of the Western Division behind him. But the Bulldogs have got Toowoomba, Ipswich,
mm,
maybe not Ipswich, but Toowoomba, Coffs Harbour, Port Macquarie. So and I think obviously Gus is a very intelligent man, although you're not allowed to criticise the NRL. The I agreed with him, by the way, what he said.
yeah,
The
me too.
Yeah, so I think that's where Penrith are so fortunate because and touch wood, they've been fairly lucky with injuries. Other than Nathan, no one else really's been. Tango's been out a couple of times, but then
Mm,
they signed Paul Alamotti, who the Bulldogs didn't want, surprisingly. Um,
yeah,
and he's played quite well the last few weeks. So yeah.
he's a unit too. He is built, mate. He's
Mm.
big, big, big body. Yeah, you talk about that Cleary injury, and it's really funny. Like Cleary's been out, but Brad Snyder hasn't missed a beat. He has just,
But then I saw Ivan get in the press conference the other day. He got injured as well. So
yeah. So
the kid
see what they do
from
this week.
Orange who
Jack
came on
Cole.
on Jack Cole, yeah.
Yeah.
He'll probably play, and they'll put Luai at
Luai
half, I'd
7.
imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'd say so. But look, I think it'd be nice to see someone else in the grand final this year. But what Penrith are doing is pretty incredible.
It's really
Yeah,
funny you say that because I've always had that thing, Australians, we love the underdog. And I just
yeah,
love
yeah.
teams perform and understanding why they are. And it's interesting, and I've had this conversation with a few players that I've played
Mm,
with and against over the years. And like back in the 80s, or in the early 90s, won a couple of grand finals. And I never remember the coach coming to me after the season going, okay, this is what we've got to do to get better. It was always,
yeah.
everyone's going to try harder because, they're playing against the premiers and they'll lift and we need to lift. But there was nothing about getting better. And you look at Penrith each year, like I was at their season launch beginning of last season. Mitch Kenny's there and I can't remember who the MC was. And he said, so what have you been working on? Oh, well, I've been working on this to get better. I've been working on this to get better. So they're
Yeah.
constantly looking to get better. So if they're 1 or 2% better every year and they're 1 or 2% better than everyone else, no one else is ever going to catch up to them unless they have a
Yeah.
massive leap. And under
Mm.
the current salary cap, that's highly unlikely.
Well, there was talk last year. They said this team could win 5, 6, 7 in a row. That is how good they are and the depth that they have. You just don't know. And with the level of competition at the moment, I mean, Melbourne are up there, but they've been a bit shaky in games. The Sharks have been up there this year, but again, lost to the Tigers earlier in the season. Penrith have still been the main consistent team in that top four.
Well, it'd be interesting to see how the Sharks go this week and next week because they play the Roosters and Penrith.
Yeah, both red hot at the moment too, so it'll be good.
But
Yeah,
the other thing, just before you go, that looking at the Bulldogs, like they should have beaten Souths, could have beaten Melbourne. If that's the case, they would have been like 2 points off the lead, 4 points off the lead, and they're not a top four team. Like I like them, and they're a lot better than they were, but they're not a top four team. So I think the standard of the competition has evened out, but it's dropped.
Yeah,
It's not getting better. Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Well, I want to thank you again. This is all we have time for on the interview tonight. I want to thank Paul for his time this evening. It's been a wonderful chat. Don't forget, you can check us out on our social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or X as well. And also wherever you listen to your podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever else you get your podcast from. Until next time, that's Paul. I'm Joey. Be good.